Episode 138, Beth Barany. Good morrow, and welcome back to the Realm. I'm epic fantasy author J.V. Hilliard, your friendly neighborhood scribe. And if you've ever wondered as an author or a writer if you needed a writing coach, this is the episode to watch for you. Tune in and listen to my interview with writer coach and author herself, Beth Barany. Beth, well met, and welcome to the Realm.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I know you and I met over referrals on the interwebs. And when I started to look at your authorship, you seem to be riding the right kind of wave right now. You describe it as yourself as writing about a kick-ass heroine. And I love that when I went to your website to do a little research on this. Tell us a bit about what you enjoy about writing that kind of archetype.
Oh gosh, I have always enjoyed it. That's pretty much all I have written. I love writing about young women and adults going on adventures, having strength, having courage, having to make the hard choice. And I love that they are active. And I like how that feels as a writer. And I always wanted to read it when I was younger. And when I didn't find it, that was one of my main motivations for eventually starting, especially the Henrietta the Dragon Slayer series, which was my first series that I published.
Yeah, it's funny because you see a lot of that now. When I said you're riding the really right wave, I mean, it sounds to me like it was more like a problem. You found a gap, a hole in the marketplace. But how are your readers responding to it?
Well, they like it, especially with the first series, Henrietta the Dragon Slayer. It's a YA, it's young adult for ages 12 and up. And most of my readers, admittedly, are women my age, middle-aged. But I also got amazing feedback from parents. Parents that would be saying, "Oh, I am so happy to have found this. I get to read it to my daughter." Always eager to, what else is Henrietta going to do? Questions like that.
Let me ask you this question. I was told once there was a rule where a male who's writing a strong female character shall not write them in love or in romance in the first 30 pages. Do you adhere to that, or do you not care and you write that into your novels?
Well, I think what you're talking about is called the Bechtel test, where it was noticed that a lot of women would only talk about their relationships or men. And you would never see women in film, doing their careers or doing making the hard choice. And I was always driven from a very young age to write girls going on adventures. And romance and friendship is important, but always secondary. Even the 5 romances that I have written, my protagonists, my female heroes, they're business owners. They're driven. They have their ambitions, and then love comes in to enhance their lives, make it better. Because it's a lot my journey. I'm ambitious. I want to go and do things. So the whole female isn't complete until she has a love relationship has never been my path personally. So how I can't write it. That's not who I am.
So I started reading the Janie McAllister stuff. She reminds me of sort of like a Jane Bond, right? Is that what you were trying to pull off with her?
So I hadn't thought of Jane Bond, but Janie McAllister is a space station investigator, and she is kick-ass and she is scientific. So my first inclination was like CSI in space. I wanted to make her athletic, which she is, and can shoot and can run. One of my big inspirations is La Femme Nikita. That's one of my big inspirations. And I'll say another inspiration is the Maltese Falcon and the detective stories. So each book in the series is a murder mystery. So wrapped around other things.
So you bounce around. I noticed you travel from genre to genre. Here you have sort of a sci-fi thing, Henrietta the Dragon. I mean, that doesn't bother you to just to bounce, or do you feel that that's natural for you?
Very natural. I love melding science fiction and fantasy. So to me, it's connected. And I essentially have 2 very strong story universes that I'm playing in. One in fantasy with Henrietta the Dragon Slayer, and one in science fiction with Janie McAllister. And I'm very dedicated to them.
Let's pivot for 1 second because I want to get into another aspect. I mean, you're a very successful writer yourself, but that also has brought you to being a coach for other authors. And many of our viewers are not just readers, they're also authors. And so if you could offer them a free piece of advice from a coach to a writer, what would that free piece of advice be?
Sure. I guess I would start with, if you have a vision for a story, start it. No matter how kooky it sounds, even if you're wondering like, oh, where does this fit? Or is this odd? It doesn't really matter. What matters is that you write it down. And if that is hard, then find buddies, find friends to support you, other writers, get in a writing community. that really accelerated my progress. We don't do this alone. It can feel like we are alone, but actually we need feedback. We need peers. We need people ahead of us who can kind of point the way or share the do's and don'ts and pitfalls and also commiserate. Like, yeah, it's hard. And, we love it.
I say that all the time. I say that, this is a team sport.
Yeah.
You need the right editor. You need the right publisher. You don't do it in a vacuum. You don't do it alone. Do you see that as the most common error for writers then? They don't have that support group? Or what would be the most common errors for writers that when you're coaching them to be better at their craft?
Yeah, well, there's that bit where they isolate themselves and they don't get with peers and they don't get feedback. The other is perfectionism. I see so many writers afraid to move forward, even with the story creation, like the early phase of brainstorming. They are so stuck, like, is this going to be okay? Is that okay? It's like, it doesn't really matter whether or not it's okay. What matters is you write it. Write it bad, write it crappy. Your body, your psyche will know when you start to hit on that gold. You're like, ooh, this really excites me. And like, go with that. Go with that. And do multiple takes, like messy, beautiful messiness. It is so important to get comfortable with the messiness of the creative process. People forget that that's where everything begins. They just see the polish, they see the beautiful books on the shelves, and they forget that it was probably just a scratchy old messy first draft at the beginning.
And that's hot
mess, right? Joe, it's a hot mess, but it's a beautiful hot mess, because once you have that beautiful messy, then now we can start to do something with it.
Well, thank you for that. And I know we're coming to the end of our time here. So I do this with every one of our guests. I play a bit of a lightning round. So if you're ready, I've got a few questions I'm going to throw at you and see where they go. So ready to roll?
Ready.
All right. LaFemme Nikita, because you mentioned her earlier, or Xena Warrior Princess, and why? Why?
Don't make me choose. Don't make me choose.
I'm making you choose. That's the fun part.
Well, they're both so different. LaFemme Nikita is French. It's a film.
You only have
a TV
one.
show. Oh no.
Only have one. Then why are you choosing it?
Okay, then I choose Xena because I have a Xena magnet on my fridge. Of course I do. Yeah.
So Xena, and for all those right reasons, your favorite heroine in all of literature. How about that?
Boy, oh my gosh. It's changed a lot through the years. I'm just going to pull one that is top of mind right now. Her name is Kai. It's a main character in Elizabeth Moon's Vata series. She's this pilot, captain, just intrepid adventurer, leader. Yeah, I really enjoy Elizabeth Moon, all her work, but this particular hero I really enjoy reading. Okay.
As a coach, what is the one thing you tell all of your students to do, and what is the one thing you tell all of your students not to do?
Well, if you are wanting to be a writer, then write regularly. It doesn't have to be every day, and it doesn't have to be first thing in the morning, but find your best spot of writing time, whether it's midday, morning, evening, whenever, and do it. Just really cultivate your writing practice. What not to do. This is kind of a double negative, but don't not ask for help. I don't know. Ask for help. Come on, people. Don't not ask for help. If you're stuck, ask for help.
Before we let you go, tell our listeners and our viewers where they can find you and where they can buy your books.
Absolutely. You can find me at Beth Barany, Barany, on Amazon and any of the vendors, or author.bethbarany.com. Or even if you just did Beth Barany, you find me on the socials. I just use the same name for all my fiction, nonfiction, socials, all of it, YouTube, the whole thing.
Well, Beth, thank you very much for coming on The Realm. We appreciated having you, and come back when the next Janie McAllister comes out.
I would love to. Thank you so much, Joe. This was great fun. And hello to all your listeners. And thank you for inviting me into The Realm.
My pleasure. Thanks again. Well, I love the way that Beth has really attacked the female superhero in a variety of her stories. And speaking of superheroes and comics, if you want to meet me, I will be at the Three Rivers Comic-Con in Pittsburgh, and you'll be able to pick up my new book, Echoes of Ghostwood, where there is also a female superhero in it. So looking forward to seeing you there. Come by the booth, and I'll give you an autograph, and you can pick up the final installment of the Warminster Saga then. And to my followers and those watching today, thanks again for lending me your ear. And until next time, I'm J.V. Hilliard, and may your gods go with you.